Hello and welcome to the Rolling With series. I'm Will, and with me as always is the one who sneaks in the shadows of your deck.
Sarah.
And this is Rolling With Dominions, and we are here to review Dominion Rising Sun. Sarah, tell us a bit about, what expansion are we on?
16.
16th expansion.
Yep. So
Small game.
yeah, totally small
Tiny.
expansion. Okay, so as we said, Rising Sun is the 16th Dominion expansion. It's a big box that introduces shadow cards, omens, and prophecies. Debt and events also return. So let's start going through each of the new aspects. Shadow cards.
So shadow cards are pretty interesting. You'll buy them and they'll go in your normal discard pile. But when it's time to shuffle your deck, you'll take all the shadows cards out because they'll have a different back. It'll be the picture that's on the front of the cards. Those get shuffled to the bottom.
Well, they don't get shuffled. They get put on the bottom.
You can shuffle them if you want to.
You can shuffle, but you can put them in any order that you want.
But I'm talking that they get shuffled in respect to the rest of the cards that make up your deck.
You shuffle the rest of your cards and you put them on top of your shadow cards.
Yeah, so shadow cards go face down.
Yes.
That starts your deck. Then the rest of your shuffled deck goes on top of them.
Right.
So on your turn, any of the shadow cards, and they like to turn them landscape so you can see them.
Yeah, so they stick out a bit.
So if you want, you can play them as if they were in your hand.
Yeah, you still need
an
action. So if you have an action and you want to play one of the shadow cards, you can pull it out from under your deck
and go, haha.
And go, haha, I shadow you, or something like that.
However, as your deck runs down, you will then draw them as normal when you get to the very bottom.
Yeah, eventually, you'll draw them if you haven't played them already.
Yeah, so basically consider shadow cards as a way to augment and expand your hand.
Yeah, it's a reserve mechanism of extra cards that you can always play until they're in your hand. All right, omens and prophecies.
Now these things have to go hand in hand. Whenever you start a game with a prophecy, there's only going to be one.
Yep.
And it will come with sun tokens. The number of sun tokens is determined by the number of players.
Right.
So it starts off as 5 tokens for a 2-player game, goes up to 8 for a 3, 10 for a 4-player game, and if you do choose to play 5 and 6 players, it's 12 and 13 respectively.
Correct.
Now, the way this works is whenever you have an omen token, there's going to be a new icon, and it's going to be a sunburst. You'll play that, and whenever there's a sunburst, that's when you remove a token.
Right, so you have to play with at least one omen card. You could play with more, but I think there's only like 5 or 6 in the whole box here. So you're not going to play with a lot, but you need to at least play with one so you have a way to get the sun tokens off.
Now, as long as there's tokens on the prophecy card, you don't do anything else with the prophecy.
It's not in effect.
Yes. Once the last prophecy, once the last token is removed from the prophecy card, it goes into an effect, and it can be a entire game-changing event, or it can just be an added rule that now applies to all players.
Exactly. So it will change how the game works. I wouldn't say halfway through the game. Well, it really depends on how
hard you're hitting the omen cards.
It depends on how many omen cards there are, how your strategies come together, and how much you're playing the omen cards.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because there can be cards that, well, you saw one that reset the game.
Oh, yeah, one of the prophecies just said, take all the kingdom cards that are in the game and take them out and put all 10 new ones in.
Yeah, you still keep what you bought before, but basically it has you reset the entire game.
I mean, there's ones where I think it was when you play an action card, you gain an action. I don't remember.
I think it was gaining cards whenever you buy something.
Maybe.
There was one that when you played treasure cards, you get an extra buy, but you also will return any treasure cards back to the kingdom's
So there are a few that have a bit more what I'd consider negative negative effects. Cards that make the game harder to play. Like there was one that, it was something like when you gain a card that costs more than 0, you gain a copper. For the most part, you don't want that, so you have to then deal with that excess coppers. Yeah. But a lot of them are also positive boosts that really, or interesting changes too. They're not all just straightforward. So very interesting. Debt. Now, there are, I think, what was it, 3 cards that cost debt. And one of them actually is an Omen card. So they brought this back. Debt as a concept, I can't remember which one.
Empires.
Empires introduced it. Basically, you don't buy these cards with money, you buy them with debt. When you want to take a card, you take whatever the number is in debt tokens. And then you have to pay those off before you buy a card. So if you get 8 debt and the next round you only manage to make 3 money from all your cards, well, you're paying off 3 debt and that's it.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing is, aside from those cards that cost debt, there are now cards that part of their ability involve gaining debt.
Right. You can gain debt, or it modifies something based on how much debt you have.
Yeah. Some cards' ability will check to see if you have debt, do this. If not, do that.
Also, because of all these changes in how you gain debt, it also changed the rules on how you can pay off debt. So before, it didn't really check debt until the beginning of your buy phase.
Right.
And then you'd gain money and you'd have to pay off the debt. Well, now, debt can be something you gain during your action phase, but you don't have to pay it off. So if you gain money during your action phase, you don't have to immediately pay off that debt.
Or you might want to during your action because you want to play a card that triggers something when you don't have debt.
Exactly. So now you have this new option of, okay, let's say I have 3 debt. I just somehow played a card that just gave me money. Well, I can choose to immediately just pay it off, or I can leave it because maybe I'm playing a card that wants me to have debt so that I can get this other effect. And then I pay it off in the buy phase type of thing. So it's a bit trickier now, and I've definitely seen more questions about it on BGG, Board Game Geek, about the timing of it.
Yeah.
I will say, since it took so long to get the physical version of this, we played it on the app way before we played it with the physical version. And the nice thing about that is the app implements the rules. And so when
we learned how to play correctly thanks to the app.
Because there would be points, it would prompt you of, do you want to pay off your debt during your action phase? And you can choose to decline it. So that really was a good way to learn how debt changed with this expansion.
Yeah, especially with timing being as important as it is in this expansion.
So that's pretty much everything about debt. It definitely was interesting that there's now cards that affects debt and looks at debt during your action phase. Events, these are just more options. Some of them are a bit more complex. I do believe there's one that works off of debt, but otherwise it's just kind of here's more options.
Right.
Okay, that's all the new things. And of course, there are cards that are not part of those. In fact, one of my favorites is the Aristocrat that just gets better with the more aristocrats that you play. So there's other interesting non-debt, non-omen
that are spiced in there.
They're spiced in there. So there's other really interesting new mechanisms.
Yeah. Again, though, Aristocrats go back to the real theme of this deck is all about timing.
Yes.
When is it the right time to play this card for the right effect?
Exactly.
I will say the sad thing is there are a number of cards in here that will force you to have to remember.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I think there's a prophecy card, or was it it was an event card.
Event card.
That you have to remember whether or not you've bought a gold before a certain effect will trigger. So you may want to grab some extra tokens to help.
Yeah, if you have a previous expansion that has the colored cubes, and then you can just assign everyone a color. So when you've bought a gold, you can put your color cube on the event to remind you, yes, I have bought a gold.
Yeah.
Even if you get rid of it, which most people wouldn't, but even if you get rid of it, it still is you have bought it. Yeah. All right, let's go over who this is for. Definitely advanced gamers.
Yes.
This is complex.
Yes, there is a lot of moving parts in this, so much so that unlike other expansions, those prophecy cards alone make it feel like I'm not even playing Dominion anymore.
Yeah, they can be radically different. And the thing is I think the prophecies are going to be either a hit or a miss. And so you're going to be the type of gamer who really loves variety and really loves, I hate to call it swinging changes, but sometimes it really is that different. Now, granted, if you're playing this physically, you can choose how you set it up. The app has some ways that you can, preset things as well. But if you're doing random setups on the app, you might get setups you don't, like type of thing. But with this is that there's certain prophecies you don't like or certain other things, just you don't play with them. But I think the gamer who really likes this game, one game being very different from the next game,
yes,
is really going to enjoy this expansion.
Yes.
But yeah, like I said, it might not, when it comes to expansions, this one could be a not everyone's cup of tea kind of thing. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say there.
Nope.
All right.
And I guess the last thing to mention is make sure to check out when I perform the flavor text of Rising Sun,
Yes.
so you don't have to read it.
Board Game Theater.
Board Game Theater. Yes, and this is our Rolling with Dominion series. And this has been Rolling with Dominion. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two, that's TWO. We're on Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Discord, we have a channel on Tabletop Express. Check the show notes for the invite link.
If you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.